Good day, everyone. My name is Shane Ambangkaya, and for today's lesson, I will be discussing about one of the most prominent contemporary story of our times. But before that, let us first have an activity that will surely give you a gist or glimpse of what our story is all about. So I want us to experience something that will help us connect with one of the characters. So are you guys ready? Now let's begin. In this activity, I want you to bring a blindfold. Put it on securely because this activity is what you're going to call the blindfolded reflection. So, in this activity, we are going to sit quietly for about 2 minutes with no talking, just focusing on what it feels like to be without an eyesight. All right, everyone, now that your blindfolds are on, I want you to sit still and pay attention to what you hear, what you feel, and what goes through your mind. So notice any thoughts or emotions that come up and feel it. Embrace it. So we'll be quiet for the next 2 minutes. Okay, time's up. You can take off your blindfolds now. Okay, so we're going to talk about now what that felt like. So, how did it feel to be unable to see? Did it make you feel uneasy, or did you notice any other senses becoming more alert? What are your thoughts about it? So, what were you thinking along the process? So, I'd love to hear all your thoughts. All right, so that was amazing to hear all your thoughts, no? Indeed, the activity helps you realize a lot talaga. So thank you so much for your participation, everyone. Now, the story we're going to discuss involves a blind man, and that activity we had earlier was designed to help us start thinking about what it might like be to experience the world without an eyesight. So keep this in mind as we go through along the process of learning the characters and themes in the story. So, unsa jud di ay atong topic map? So, our topic for today is contemporary story entitled Cathedral by Raymond Carver. So, this is going to be presented by me and my partner, Miss Jeannie Lu Dunlop. But before we proceed to our discussion proper, allow me first to introduce to you our learning objectives. So, at the end of the lesson, the student should be able to first explain the character development of the narrator and the symbolism of the cathedral in the story. Second is to express how the blindfolded reflection activity influenced your understanding of the story's theme. And lastly is to create a drawing or visual representation of a cathedral similar to the activity of the story to explore the themes of perception and communication. So, who is Raymond Carver? So, Carver was born on May 25, 1938, in Clatts County, Oregon, USA, and died on August 2, 1988, in Port Angeles, Washington. So, he attended Yakima Valley Community College and graduated from the University of Iowa Writers Workshop. So, his writing styles involves minimalist style, and his themes explores around the concept of poverty, alcoholism, broken relationships, and the struggle of the ordinary people. So his other works, which are very famous also, are Will You Please Be Quiet Please? It was written in 1976, and What We Talk When We Talk About Love on 1981. So the background of the story, Cathedral, was first published in the September 1981 issue of the Atlantic Monthly and later included in Raymond Carver's 1983 short story collection of the same name. So it was written during the early 1980s. The story reflects a time significant of social and cultural changes in the United States, characterized by economic challenges, shifting gender roles, and evolving family dynamics. So these broader societal shifts often lead to feelings of isolation and disconnection, themes that Carver explores through the narrator's journey from ignorance to understanding and connection. So in this story, we have four characters, namely the narrator, the wife, Robert, and Beulah. So the narrator is a middle-aged unnamed man who is initially insecure, insensitive, and prejudiced, especially towards Robert's blindness. The wife, on the other hand, is very emotionally sensitive, creative, and compassionate with a strong bond with Robert, whom she met while she was working with him as his reader. Robert, on the other hand, is a blind man who is wise, open minded, and patient, so embodying a sense of calm and understanding. While Beulah, Robert's late wife, is portrayed as loving and devoted through her presence, though her presence is largely symbolic in this story. So, the summary of Cathedral by Raymond Carver. So, in the beginning of Cathedral by Raymond Carver, the narrator has an internal conversation in which he talks about how he doesn't want to host Robert, a blind man who is a friend of the narrator's wife. The narrator remembers the event that led to his wife and Robert becoming friends. Due to financial constraints and her engagement with her first husband, his wife took a summer job assisting Robert as a social worker and as his reader. So at the end of the summer, Robert asked the narrator's wife if he could see her by touching her face. So the narrator's wife will never forget that moment. The narrator also talked about how his wife reached out to Robert for help after she tried to kill herself because of how unhappy she was with her first husband, whose job is in military that made them move around a lot. So when the narrator finally stops talking to himself, he makes a cynical joke about Robert's blindness and asks his wife if he should take Robert into bowling. So the wife argues with him and begs him to be nice to Robert, who is staying the night at their house after spending time with the family of his recently deceased wife, which is Beulah. So that when the narrator asks rude questions about Robert's wife, the narrator's wife explains that Robert was married to Beulah, who has since died. So the woman worked for Robert the summer after the narrator's wife did. Soon after they got married, the narrator thought about this marriage and how sad it must have been for Robert's wife that her husband didn't see how beautiful she was. So when the narrator's wife then goes to the train station to get Robert, the narrator's wife is very nice to Robert, but the narrator himself is a jerk. He asks Robert which side of the train he was on, since the view is best from the right side. So Robert asks the narrator about his life, but the narrator doesn't answer, and he gets angry when Robert calls him Bob. So they drink something and then they eat a big dinner. So after a hearty meal and a cherry pie, the three of them go back to the living room, where Robert keeps trying to learn more about the narrator. The narrator gives Robert short answers to his questions and then turns on the TV to stop Robert from asking anymore. While the narrator's wife changes upstairs, the narrator and Robert smoke weed. And when the narrator's wife came back, she joined them, and soon all three of them were falling asleep. So when the narrator's wife falls asleep on the couch, the narrator starts to look for something to watch on the television. So after being unable to decide, the narrator chooses a TV show about Europe's churches. The narrator realizes that Robert can't fully enjoy this show because he can't see the picture of churches that are being shown. He tries to explain the intricate design of the cathedral. However, Robert suggests that they should draw a church together because this is hard for him. So the narrator gets a pen and a piece of brown paper, and while Robert's hand is on his, he draws a church. When the wife wakes up, she doesn't know what's going on, but the two of them keeps on drawing. So Robert tells the narrator to close his eyes and keep drawing. And when the narrator does this, he has a spiritual experience that changes him in a profound way. When they're done, Robert tells him to open his eyes and see what he's drawn, but the narrator doesn't open them. He knows he's in his own home, but he feels like he's nowhere. With his eyes still closed, he says the drawing is really something.
So the lesson of the story of Cathedral by Raymond Carver. So any idea of what this is mean? Okay, correct, no? Very good. So the lesson of the story has the power of empathy. The narrator's transformation begin when he starts to emphasize with Robert, realizing that understanding someone else's perspective can lead to profound personal growth. So empathy is teaches us that it is a powerful because it can help to understand people who are different from us, even if we don't fully understand their experiences. So, like for example, if you have a friend who really good at drawing and you try to draw but it looks like terrible and you think you're not good at art, but if your friend is willing to help you, so you might start to see things differently. And you might learn that drawing isn't just about a talent, however, it is also about a practice. So that's what also happened to the narrator in the story, that he learns to see the world through Robert's eyes, and also it changes to him. So we can also learn to be more empathetic through listening to others, for us to understand their perspectives and also being open to new experiences. So the second lesson is seeing beyond the surface. The story teaches that true vision is not about physical sight, but about seeing with the heart and mind, appreciating the deeper aspects of life and people. So the lesson of the story teaches us also that we should be able to look beyond the surface and try to understand people for who they truly are. So, for example, if your classmate is really quiet and you might think that they are unfriendly, but if you are try to spend time to talk to them and to get to know more better, you might discover that they actually very thoughtful and kind. So that what also like the narrator that he initially judged Robert because he's blind and assuming that he's unhappy. But when he actually spent time with Robert, he realized that Robert is insightful, imaginative, and full of life. So we can learn also to see beyond appearance and judgment without knowing them better. If we can be more open minded and try to understand the unique experiences of others. And the third lesson is the value of open mindedness. The narrator's initial prejudice are challenged through his interaction with Robert, showing that being open to new experiences and people can lead to unexpected and enriching outcomes. So the third one is also teaches that being open-minded can lead to amazing discoveries as well as connections. So example of this is if you are invited to a friend's house for a dinner but their serving is a dish you've never tried before, you might be hesitant because you're used to your own familiar food. But if you're open-minded and willing to try something new, you might discover a delicious and new flavor of food. So it also like the narrator. He initially resistant to meeting Robert because he's blind. But when he opened his mind and allows himself to experience that world through Robert's perspectives and a deeper understanding of a human connections. So also we can learn to be more open-minded by embracing a new experiences and being willing to learn from other people. So the fourth lesson of the story is transformation through shared experience. The act of drawing the cathedral together becomes a metaphor for how shared experiences can break down barriers, fostering connection and change. And the fifth one is the spirituality of creativity. So, engaging in the creative process allows the narrator to tap into a deeper spiritual and emotional realm, highlighting how creativity can lead to moments of enlightenment and self discovery. So, any questions, clarifications of our lesson? So, that's the end of our discussion. So, for your assignment, you are going to draw a visual representation of cathedral that represents connection, understanding, or personal growth in life. This could be literal cathedral or any meaningful that holds significance for you. So after completing the drawing, write a 100 up to 200 word explanation of what cathedral represent to you and choose to depict it in this particular way. So the criteria of this assignment is content 25%, creativity 25%, organization 25%, neatness 25%, a total of 100%. That concludes our discussion. Thank you for listening. I am Jenny Ludunlog together with my partner Shane Bankaya, and God bless us all.